Hi, and welcome to another episode of Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what made our Pinterest boards today. There was some really interesting stuff coming in overnight on the email list, so let me just take you through the images, the inspiring architectural images that have made a variety of our boards today. The first one was the courtyard house. It's a very compact space. What I really liked about it was this cute little mezzanine up there, which is the sleeping zone. We have the kitchen zone here. We have a beautiful staircase. It would be non-compliant here in Australia. We would have to add more balustrading to that. And then we have a small study space, and then there's an outdoor courtyard just there. It's a really lovely little space, well laid out, well furnished for this shoot. So I liked it, and it's up on our mezzanines and catwalk board. As too is the image beside it, which is a converted laundry in the US. It's currently on the market. Again, the balustrade wouldn't be compliant over here in Australia, but what really caught my eye was this sort of old school library ladder that was in tree frog green. So that's why that has made the board today. This little Notting Hill project, there was several aspects of it that caught my eye. I really liked the use of plywood in the staircase, both as the staircase itself and then the lining for the staircase, and then the rebate they've created for that handrail. We can see it here in this image. We see a small shadow line up and down those treads and rises, and then we have another view of that handrail from here. So I really just like the use of material in that. It's very lightweight with the blonde timber, very durable. It's not going to mark easily carting furniture up and down. So I really liked that as a staircase. Even the way they've cut the ceiling is quite interesting. So that was that part of that project. The other aspect I liked was this tiny little study nook, which would be the upstairs return, I would suggest, of that staircase, and the use of the plywood in there as well. And we can see a door leaf in the open position here, but then it looks like a doorstop up in the ceiling. So I just really like that. Again, the use of material, the consistency of that plywood throughout was really lovely. This picture through to their kitchen just shows their bold use of colour, which I really like. So they've sort of gone for a really dark green joinery, base cupboards and tall cupboard, and then the overheads themselves are white with a lovely window. And then we have this pop of yellow and then some more peachy pink over by that door over there. So that was really nice. And then upstairs, the way they've done their fireplace was really interesting. It's just an open flame. It is surrounded by fireproof marble there. I really liked that as a really simple, minimalist fireplace. Obviously, if you've got small children, you would want to put a screen around that. But other than that, it was gorgeous. This particular image caught my eye for the skylight and the way that that's been integrated into this ceiling space. So obviously we're in an attic space. We can see that we've got a bit of a mezzanine, a handrail on that side. And then the choice of these like operable roof window / skylights is really, really lovely to sort of bring light in and make that space feel open and get some fresh air. I really liked that. This image here, it was for that courtyard. So we can see the fascia gutters of those two roofs where they meet in the middle, the small open, I guess, skylight that they create, and then the way that's been referenced down in the landscaping below. So we've got the green grass that sort of follows the skylight opening itself. We've got some beautiful timber underneath that eave, and then we see that chain down pipe, dead center of that view. And then at the far end, even that round window with the screen is lovely. This is the outside image of this project over here, and I just really loved their materials and the contrast there. So we have the flat edge in the metal clad walling in a dark color, and then we have a recessed edge done in timber shingles with timber lining, and just the way those two gables interplay on that facade is beautiful. A really well thought out design. It was again the material in this project that caught my eye. This is the central courtyard from this project. This is the outside facade, but it was that use of material. So we have vertical timber cladding, those beautiful wall lights that were in an image that was posted yesterday as well. And then we see the sort of the more solid box sitting on top of that. And then what appears to be an operable sliding screen in timber slats is beautiful as well. Whether that does in fact slide across and protect that entry, I'm not sure, but it is lovely. Internally, they did really interesting thing with this curved space and did some curved joinery with some overheads. The way they've positioned that stair, it feels like it could be a study space, although I note there's no leg room to actually work at that bench. And then we can see they've actually cut away the floor and done pebbles. So they've done a contrast in materials and put a pot plant under it underneath a skylight. So that is a throwback. Here in Australia, we were sort of doing those sort of indoor rockery and gardens, sort of late 70s, early 80s, and we see reference to it in this project. And in the contemporary interpretation, I'm quite enjoying that. Also on the board today, the vertical garden was really beautiful inside this spa renovation. Just the use of the plants, obviously climate has a lot to do with the success of these sorts of gardens internally. We can see there is a small water feature there and then a terraced sort of garden next to it, and then pot plants on that catwalk above. So it was just a really great way to incorporate greenery into that sort of two-story void. It is a public space. There's nothing to say you couldn't do that residentially as well. This is a different angle from a project I pinned yesterday. I pinned it yesterday for the front door, and today I saw it in a different article and saw the back door view of it and just fell in love with it all over again. So the way that the sort of the material and the facade funnel you down to the opening is the thing that's catching my eye continually on that project. This project here, I'm not such a keen fan of necessarily the island bench material, but what I am loving is the way they've sort of boxed out the range hood as just a blank white box and then done these open shelves beside it and then created like a real cooking nest so that the walls return beyond. Interesting that they didn't return, I don't know whether I would have returned the bench material up as that splashback on the two sides of that as well. And then they've just tiled the portion between the marble splashback or the reconstituted stone splashback and that overhead shelf. So if it were coming out of my office, I would have tweaked that a little bit further, but I really do like what that is and how that displays in that image. This kitchen here, it was the use of the concrete that I really liked and the timber. There was another concrete kitchen today. So that was really lovely. It was a big day for me in concrete. I am currently redesigning a project currently on site and their concrete island bench. So maybe that's why it keeps catching my eye at the moment. This image from that same project, it was the concrete, again, is referenced in the bathroom. They've got a concrete vanity bench top with plywood with the door handle, so we can see there's a consistency in their joinery throughout the project. And then they've gone for this beautiful concrete look. It's almost ceramic-like with the ribbing in that on the outside of that vanity basin. So I really liked that as a vanity. This is the outside of that same project, and they've got a bifold screen system happening across that, which I really liked. This little apartment was the next project that caught my eye, and it was these light fittings. So this is the one over the dining room table in another project where we're seeing a mural on an internal wall as opposed to wallpaper, and I really liked that. And then their living room, this is almost like a bird cage. I really like that light fitting, and I'm assuming that might be a floor lamp as well. That was really, really interesting. Has a lot of sort of postmodernism about the interior of this and feels like a throwback maybe to sort of the 1980s, but I really, really like that. This is very much reminiscent for me of Three Men and a Little Lady. If you remember that film, and a baby, there's a mural artist that lives in the property and does spectacular murals on the wall. The next one that caught my eye was this little house here. What interested me, I put this on the stairboard, was the way the stairs work. We can see storage underneath. I really like the balustrade and the way that's used in that narrow kitchen space. It is a sort of a galley style kitchen. Again, not overly keen on the material on the island bench. For me, that pattern is just a little bit too big for such a small piece in such small areas. I'd much rather see a pattern of that size on a much bigger scale, so on a full wall rather than an island bench and a splashback and a kitchen bench. But it's a lovely material, I just don't like it in this application, maybe is a better way to say that. But I did pin this one here for the way that they've integrated that raised island bench that we're seeing in this image and how it steps down and becomes the dining room table. And we can see sort of the waterfall ends matching, and then they've mixed up their bench material for that kitchen table. So that is clear delineation in material as well as height for the different function. But then their task lighting with plants runs the full length of that bench. So it was interesting. And again, open to twerks and interpretation by every architect and client out there. This little project here was the one with the other kitchen done in concrete that I really enjoyed today. Interesting use of blinds or heavy window furnishings throughout. This is another photo from that same project, but just really liked the use of the concrete bench. We can see that they've got concrete on the outside, but it was more the way that they've just placed that industrial looking wood burning fire just on the floor with all the concrete around it. It doesn't need any additional sort of hearthing or anything like that. So just a really interesting way to do that. I do wonder whether it would then heat up the floor and maybe be quite effective. So something to keep in mind. From that same project, an al fresco view, I just really liked the simplicity of that sort of courtyard landscape that feeds off, assumably, these spaces here. And then the screening that is around that corner there. It's just a lovely mesh screening for that project. And that is everything that caught my eye today. Sorry, I finished unexpectedly then. I couldn't remember what was the last thing or the first thing that I pinned, given that these go in reverse order. So I hope you found some inspiration there. We dived into a lot of different materials, a lot of different periods, and got something from that video. As you can see, Bespoke House 4, the golf course house, is having more pins put up. This is a window detail from that project. It also featured some concrete, so there's a concrete suspended shelf just here that holds their record player and some art, and opposite that was the cantilevered concrete suspending their industrial double-sided wooded heater. So it is a beautiful project that has references to a lot of the things that we saw today on Pinterest. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Until next Monday, I'm Nicole Walters, and thank you very much. Bye.